no man who understands about this whole AI human fusion agenda. He's in favor of it, of course. And he said a few years ago this: by 2030, humans will be being connected to artificial intelligence. Is in his words, they will be connected, their brains will be connected to the cloud. And his words again, from that moment, artificial intelligence will do more and more of human thinking until human thinking as we've known it is negligible. He means deleted. And you're looking at this circling of the wagons around the politicians by the AI billionaire technocrats, and happening, they can stop you buying it. They can stop you spending that money, your money, outside of the designated area. Here we have the way to police the so-called 15-minute cities. And we are now standing at this cusp of the most extraordinary transformation of human society into a level of control that it's almost impossible to exaggerate. And it's all being orchestrated from this global level, and people like Starmer do what they're told because that's what they're put in for. Just like Blair was, just like Sunak was, just like Johnson was, and just like Trump is. So, people talk about what are the solutions? Well, I keep saying over the years, I'm not interested in solutions. Because what happens with solutions is they usually lead to more problems in need of more solutions. What I'm looking for is the cause of the problem. How do a few control the many throughout human history? Because if you remove the problem, or you remove the cause of the problem must disappear. It has to. So what's the cause of the problem? That we have fallen over and over for rigid, unquestioning belief systems that can be played off against each other, that limit your ability to expand into the levels of infinite possibility and understanding and insight. Because if you go beyond the wall of your belief system, you're no longer whatever you call yourself. You're no longer a Christian, you're no longer a Muslim, you're no longer a Hindu, whatever. You're no longer left or you're no longer right. Because you realize it's all bloody nonsense. And all designed to divide us, to divide the totality of humanity, so the few can go on ruling, except ruling, as I've said, on a level now that is beyond the imagination, really, in terms of this control. Now, there's a guy who is a so-called futurist executive of Google called Ray Kurzweil, and he said a few years ago, he claims to be the new from artificial intelligence. So basically, we are being connected to a hive mind, which will deliver our perceptions, and it will deliver our emotional reactions. And funnily enough, when that happens, if we allow it to happen, that AI will not be asking questions like, who's running the show? To what end? Why do they do this? Why do they do it like that? Why is freedom being taken away? AI is not going to ask those questions. That's the idea, complete human control of thought and emotional response. And That is unfolding before our eyes now. And alongside it is designed to be this digital dystopia where every fine detail of our lives will be controlled by AI ultimately, but through the digital system. And the idea of the digital ID is obviously direct control of everything and tracking of everything and everyone. But the digital currency, which is unfolding at the same time, the so-called central bank digital currencies, that's designed to work in tandem with the digital ID, and it's coming in all over the world. You know, Trump came in, total con man. I'm not upsetting anybody. Well, I've been saying it ever since he came on the scene in 2016 politically. Total con man. What he's saying, what he said, because his MAGA base is all against this central bank digital currency, is that he was going to sign, as he did, an executive order that said America will not have a digital currency, a central bank digital currency. What he then did was introduce something called stable coins, which is a digital currency. It's not central bank digital currency, but it's a digital currency. And what's the common theme between that and central bank digital currencies? Programmability. Once you have the digital currency in place, they can program the area in which your money can be spent and on what and what cannot be spent upon. So you want to go and buy something that will give you a better understanding of what's happening, so that we're looking all over the place except here. Because this control system up to this point has controlled people via control of perception. So they have to manipulate information. Where do we get our perceptions from, our belief systems from? We get them from information received. So you control information as best you can, and censorship is a massive means of controlling information. You can see this, hear this, but not hear this and see that, because that might give you a different view of the situation to the one we want you to have. And so you had this, up to this point, manipulation of information to control perception. Look at COVID. What was that about? There was a narrative they wanted the population to believe in, which was that there was a deadly virus, and the way to save yourself and your family was to have a COVID fake vaccine. Fake because it didn't fulfill the definition of vaccines before then. It's a genetic manipulator. So, what did they do? I know that, personal experience. They threw people off the internet who were talking about it. They silenced them because they wanted to make sure that people overwhelmingly had only their version of COVID, because then perception is likely to believe that narrative. But we now, with the digital ID and digital currency, which is fundamentally connected, and with the AI human fusion, we are on the cusp of going to the next level. And clearly not yet enough people realize the consequences of that level. It is that AI is connected to the human brain, and it doesn't have to be done through just microchips in the brain that we can see. It can be done through nanotechnology, which just happens to be what was put into the body of so many people via the COVID fake vaccine and through other means now. And the idea is that we will get our perceptions not formed from manipulated information, but we will get them direct. Loads of different ones, because then they can do the second stage of this assault on humanity, which is to divide and rule by playing off different belief systems against each other. Now, if we could just find it in ourselves to have to be at peace with someone having a different view to us without seeking to impose their beliefs on everyone else, then we might have the chance, while not agreeing on everything, to come together on something that impacts upon us all. Because, you know, this is not an attack on the freedom of Christianity or Islam or Hinduism or Buddhism or any of them. It's not an attack on the left or the center or the right. It's an attack on all of us to impose this unbelievable, never seen before in known human history, dystopia of control. And so what they want us to do is to go on fighting each other over different belief systems and ideologies, and not look up and see that the same hands are holding the strings attached to all of us. They want us in conflict. No, they must have us in conflict, otherwise they cannot prevail. And like I say, that doesn't mean we have to agree on everything. But what we have to do, surely, is to focus our attention on what matters to all of us, what affects all of us. Charlie, you look at the alternative media at the moment, or what passes for it often, and you'll see this focus on who killed Charlie Kirk. This focus on Turning Point USA and the meeting between Erica Kirk and Candace Owens, and what they're going to happen? Massive freaking numbers! Oh, millions! Oh my God, look at what's going to happen! And while that's happening, and our focus of attention, this is what perception manipulation is all about. It's controlling your focus of attention while this is all happening. This is happening. And what they want, and you're going to see this in 2026 even more, they want to create as many diversions as possible. He too is saying the answer to that is digital ID. You create the problem, you offer the solution, and they're the same people doing both. And then you go one step back again into the cult, into the shadows, and you meet a guy called Larry Ellison, who is Tony Blair's handler. And Larry Ellison is supposed to be the second richest man in the world. He owns Paramount and CBS News in America. He's trying to buy CNN. A very good chance he's going to end up with the American version of TikTok. And he's the biggest private funder of the Israeli Defense Forces. And you go back and he'll have people to answer to, and they'll have people to answer to. And this is where it's coming from. So there is, as you look at the way we are played, there are common global themes which are used on everyone because it's coming from a global level, not just a national level. So, how do the few control the many? Well, look through human history and you'll see again that this is a constant theme throughout human history. The few control the many. Okay, well currently we're told there are 8 billion people in the world. And the number of people, I'll tell you from my own research and experience over these decades, the number of people in full knowledge that are driving this agenda from the inner core is frickin' tiny, a smear compared with 8 billion people. So mathematically, it's impossible for a few to control the many. Impossible. But how do they do it? And this is a constant throughout human history, and it's a constant today all over the world. Number one, you have to get your target population to have belief systems that are rigid and unquestioning, that limit, first of all, your ability, because that's what they do, to look beyond the limits of your belief system. I don't care if it's a religious belief system or a political belief system, left and right. You've got to have a rigid belief system. And they want lots of sub-networks in every country, and their job is to manipulate into power people who will serve the agenda. And idiots absolutely are on the list, because if you're a moronic personality, you have no original thought. Therefore, the civil service and advisors will be dictating policy, not you. So you look at Starmer. He's been put into power by this cult and its British network. And if you look at his eyes, look at Starmer's eyes. This bloke's permanently bloody terrified. Not just when he's asked a difficult question like "What's your name?" That's just a more accentuated part of it when he's got a question he doesn't like. But in general, he's terrified. And he's terrified because, you know, one of the great things, and we can bring this into Jeffrey Epstein and that whole network and the Jimmy Savile network, one of the ways they control these people is through blackmail. You know, the reason, or one reason, there are so many pedophiles in governments and politics is because once one of those goes into power, you got them. You got them. Oh, well, you know, we've got a bit of a choice here. You can either pursue the policies we tell you to pursue, and then massive headlines on the front pages of the Sun, etc., will not happen. But you know, we wouldn't like what you're doing to come out, would we? And this is massively part also of the control of politicians. So you look at Starmer and his mob, and you go back one step further deeper into the cult, and you meet Tony Blair. The one thing you know about Tony Blair is whatever he's saying is what the cult wants to happen every frickin' time. So he was the one, as an aide of his publicly talked about when a whistleblower some years ago, who opened the door, who opened the gates to mass immigration problem. And now he, through Starmer, through the whole period of COVID, and a long time before, come to that, but certainly now, look around, they are putting complete frickin' morons into government. You know, if the Trump cabinet has a brain cell between them, then it's as much as I've ever seen. And then, bloody hell, let's come back to Britain. David Lammy. Is there life on David Lammy? I see no evidence. Then you've got Rachel Reeves. and all these other complete bloody idiots in power. Why? Because what they're doing systematically, because what this whole global conspiracy is a psychological game. It's to manipulate your perception so you behave the way the cult wants you to behave. So what they're now doing is everything they can to make the populations of the world lose total confidence in elected politicians by putting morons into power, and therefore to get the people to kind of accept, well, the politicians have been bloody useless, we can't be any worse, thank you, gotcha. So if we look at digital ID and this AI human fusion, we are not looking at Keir Starmer alone imposing it in Britain. This is how it works. I mean, 36 years later, this is how it works. You have this global cult, it goes beyond that too, but let's keep it at that level. And it works through all the different countries all over the world. It works through China as much as it works through the United States and Europe and Britain. And it has an agenda for the world, not for England, for the world. And that agenda is for the fusion of humans and the human brain with artificial intelligence. They're telling you what they want to do, what they plan to do, and a digital control system, which means that AI, in effect, will control every fine detail of your life and your children's lives. So, let's look at Starmer from that perspective. What these people do, this global cult, they have societies that ultimately have an interlocking inner circle leadership, which is driving the direction of human society. And the idea is to kid us that we have choice, when actually whoever we are given to choose between is actually controlled by this same cult. And this is why, if you look at the direction of human society, what you see is no matter who's in power, no matter what rosettes on the lapel or what party is in power, the world goes on incessantly heading in the same direction to ever greater centralization of control and tyranny. Now, you might vote for one party and they might use different excuses. They might move at a different pace towards this dystopia, but they still go in that direction. So the question is why? I'll give you an example. We now have the Starmer government, and before we had the Conservative government of people like Sunak and Johnson, but they both were pushing us in the direction of tyranny. Now we have the Reform Party appearing, of Nigel Farage, and they are saying that if they get into government, then up to half the cabinet will be appointed, not elected. Now, anyone who's read my books over the years will know that I pointed out that the whole direction of so-called politics is that this global cult is moving towards a technocracy in which appointed people, technocrats, bureaucrats, and so-called experts in these various fields, they were great, weren't they, the experts during COVID? They are moving towards that, and what that means is the end of elected politicians. The end of elected politicians and their replacement with appointees. And you will